There is currently a lot of advice going around in the guitar gear world, especially on the internet and especially among YouTubers like myself, telling you if you're not happy with the sound, with the guitar tone of your current setup, that you should change the speakers in your cab before you do anything else. Well, I've got a little bit of a hot take for you. I think that advice is dumb, and I'm gonna tell you why. Let's do it! All right, guys, hope you're having a great day out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I take all sorts of awesome high gain related guitar equipment, I give you my hot take opinion on it, you get to hear it through a simple SM57 setup, and then you get to yell at me in the comments and tell me why I'm wrong about everything I just said, which I imagine will definitely happen a lot today. But I have been deeply involved in the guitar gear world for roughly the last 10 years. And a big part of my involvement in that community is a lot of buying, selling, and trading. Now, I'm definitely not a great guitar player. I don't have a lot of skill. I don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to actually playing the guitar, because that is not really what I focused on. Despite this massive wall of high dollar amplifiers behind me, I actually started my journey much like everybody else did, with nothing. And I've always kind of been a business-minded type of person. I often, when I buy something, I look at it as an investment and I try to think, how much value is this actually going to give me back? And more importantly, if I ever do need to sell this item, am I gonna lose a ton of the value that I invested into it when I go to sell it? And I very heavily applied that mindset to guitar gear when I first got going. I would only ever buy something if I found a really, really good deal on it, a deal that was so good that I know that if I needed to turn it around quickly, I absolutely could. And if I didn't need to turn it around quickly, I could actually make a couple bucks on the resale and then invest that profit into the next piece of gear, so on and so forth. So that is how I got rolling in this guitar gear hobby of mine. Now, there is one thing that I have never done in that decade of buying, selling, trading, and collecting guitar gear. I have never upgraded the speakers in low dollar or entry level guitar cabinets. And the main reason that I have never done that is because speakers are not cheap. To buy a brand new quad of something like, say, the Celestion Vintage 30, a very popular speaker, you're looking at like $680 before tax and before shipping, if where you buy them from is going to charge you shipping. So that is a lot of money that you would spend investing in upgrading something like a Behringer 4x12, which is a really common 4x12 cab that I see in the Facebook groups where people are like,
hey, I found this cab. It's only 150 bucks. I'm thinking of grabbing it and upgrading the speakers sometime down the line.
And I always say the exact same thing. Do not do that. It is an absolutely horrible investment, because most of the time people who are upgrading speakers in these cheaper cabinets are buying them brand new. And while some speakers do hold their value better than others, for the most part, when you see speakers on the used market, they are usually around half the price for a speaker of what they would sell for new. For example, that Vintage 30, 160 bucks a speaker before tax, you're looking at $80 used, sometimes more depending on the variant. And I very rarely see those speakers sell for less than that. So you've got your $150 cab, you just invested 640 bucks, $650 we'll say, after tax, into upgrading the crappy speakers that are in that cab to some new premium quality Celestion Vintage 30s. Well, a lot of people will look at that and say, cool, my cab is worth $800. Wrong. Because of exactly what we just talked about, those speakers become greatly devalued once they're used. That cab is worth nowhere near $800. In fact, because it's a cheap and undesirable cab, you have actually devalued those Celestion speakers even more than half. If you were to take that cabinet and throw it up on Marketplace as of right now, I guarantee you that you would not get more than $300 to $350 out of that cabinet. You know how I know? Because I am currently selling multiple Vintage 30 loaded speaker cabinets, and unless they are a Mesa, unless they're a Marshall or some boutique brand like Bogner or Dietzel, it is really hard to move a 4x12 cabinet for more than $350 to $400 even with good speakers in it. You're better off taking those speakers out of the cabinet and selling them individually, which is what I often do. I recently bought a Crate Blue Voodoo cab. I bought the cab for, I think it was like $280 shipped off of Guitar Center's website, which we are definitely going to circle back around to in just a moment. I was able to sell those Celestion Vintage 30s for $180 a pair, which means I made $360, and I was able to sell that unloaded Crate Birch Blue Voodoo cabinet for $60. So my $280 investment turned into $410. So again, just to put it into perspective, spending $150 on something like that Behringer cab, spending $600 and some to upgrade it, even if you did turn around and make $410, you just lost over $400 on upgrading that cabinet. And of course, this is all assuming that you're gonna sell the cab at some point down the line, but let's be realistic. The vast majority of people who are into guitar gear, they don't keep stuff forever. They're buying and selling and trading, trying the next big thing, trying something different every couple of years. Or in the worst case scenario, they're selling things because they need money, and music equipment is not an essential part of life for most of us, so that's one of the first things to go. And to another point that I'm sure that people are going to raise down below in the comments, yes, I'm using Vintage 30s as an example because truthfully, that's the most common speaker that you're gonna find out there. Things do get a little bit more difficult if you get into different speakers. You'll find that some speakers hold their value much better than the Vintage 30, and they're a lot less risky to buy them and put them in a cab if you have the ability and you've got the drive to sell them separately down the line. But again, if you leave them in a cabinet, you're waiting for a very specific buyer that is going to be willing to purchase that cheaper cab with those speakers in it, and you're still gonna have to give them a very substantial discount. But on the flip side of that, some speakers hold their value not well at all. I have come to find that a lot of Eminence speakers, I have a hard time selling Eminence speakers whenever I put them up for sale. So even though they are a little bit cheaper to begin with, it still seems as if they sell for less than a Celestion speaker. So you're still kind of losing about the same amount of value and turning those around. So you're probably sitting here listening to all this and saying,
okay, bro, if it's such a bad idea, why don't you give us a better idea?
Okay, I will. I tell people all the time, instead of buying a cheap cab and upgrading it sometime down the road, you should absolutely just be patient and keep your eyes open for a cab with good speakers already in it at a great price, because much like we already talked about in this video, unless it is one of those established names or boutique names, most 412 cabs just don't really hold their value all that well, so you can actually end up buying them for what is a really good value on the used market. Case in point, the Randall XL cabinet. That is an extremely well-built cab. They were all built here in the US back in the day, all birch plywood, and they had an assortment of good speakers in them. Some of them had V30s, some of them had T75, some of them had H100s, which are very similar to the G12K100. Some of them even had greenbacks. And those are cabs that I see pop up somewhat often. You may not be able to log online and find one right away, but within a month or so, I bet you'd at least come across one. And generally, those cabs are selling for $400 or less. An even better example, when you start getting into the older or sometimes more obscure gear market, there are a couple of different brands that manufacture awesome cabs. They put good speakers in them, and they fly under the radar so people don't even know the true value of those cabs. For instance, directly behind me, I have an Egnater Armageddon cab. Those come with G12, T75, and K100 speakers and an X pattern. They are overbuilt, they are incredibly well-built cabs. And I have owned 4 of those, and I have paid no more than $260 for any of them. And lastly, there are some of the cult classics that people do know about, but they still just seem to sell for cheap. So you've got the Crate Blue Voodoo cabs with Vintage 30s. Those don't ever seem to sell for more than $400. You've got the Line 6 cabs that actually had Vintage 30s on them. They have a little badge in the bottom corner that says loaded with Vintage 30s. Those cabs sell all the time for under $300. I've bought more than I can count for under $300. And if you really start kind of digging through things like I like to do, looking at a lot of Facebook Marketplace listings of cabs that maybe you've never seen before, there's a good possibility that you're gonna find a crazy deal. A couple of years ago, I actually bought an old early 80s Ampeg 412 SS cabinet. Never heard of it before. It's front loaded. It actually almost kind of looks like one of their bass cabs. So I went online and did a little bit of research and found that those cabs actually came loaded with G12 65 speakers. Those are a rare Celestion speaker that they only made for about 4 years, and they are very highly coveted. Like, the amount that I paid for that cabinet, I could probably get that amount for each individual speaker. And I have done this on multiple occasions. It really comes down to how much time are you willing to invest in researching and searching for those obscure cabinets. Now, one thing that I know that I'm gonna come across in the comments of this video, especially from the people who don't actually watch the whole video and they come in with their comments locked and loaded before they even hear me out, are going to say,
"Oh, Kyle, I don't have any sort of transportation, so even if I could find a 4x12 cab, I wouldn't be able to get it back to my house."
okay, that is a perfectly valid point. You're gonna have a really hard time going and picking up a used guitar cabinet that you don't even have transportation to go out and get. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna shoot your argument right in the crotch. Guitar Center's used website is an absolute gold mine for deals when it comes to used guitar cabinets. I have bought more guitar cabs off that website than anything else. And I'm probably blowing up my spot right now by doing this, but I want you guys to be able to find some of the deals that I have been able to find over the years. I want people to get good deals and get good gear for cheap prices. That's why I'm making this video. I'm trying to save you money. So when you shop at Guitar Center's online site, you can have the guitar cabinet shipped directly to your door, and they don't charge more than $36 to ship a 4x12 guitar cab. Do not ask me how. I do not know how that they are shipping guitar cabs this cheap without losing a substantial amount of money, even with a crazy business account that I'm sure that they have. There is no way that it is only costing them $36 to ship a 4x12 guitar cabinet via UPS. But they will ship that guitar cabinet directly to your door. And if there ends up being a problem with that guitar cabinet, you call Guitar Center's customer service, you tell them what's wrong, they will take it back. They will actually ship it back from you. They'll pick it up from your house, they'll provide you a label, and they will not charge you shipping if something is wrong with that cabinet, and you won't be out any money. They have a 45-day return policy that is basically exactly for situations like that. So the excuse of you don't have transportation to go and get something, even if it's local to you, and bring it back home, that argument is kind of out the door. And unless you just absolutely refuse to shop online, which again, I'm sure that there will be people who are just looking for any point that they can, any way to poke holes in my argument when really I'm just trying to help you and save you guys money, you really no longer have an excuse of why you can't go out and shop and get a good deal on a better 2x12 or 4x12 cabinet as opposed to upgrading the speakers and the cheap cab that you already have. And just to prove my point, I'm actually going to list a number of deals that I've gotten within the last 6 months off of Guitar Center's website on used 4x12 cabs, including shipping. And those are deals that I can find, like if I search really hard, I can find multiple deals every week. So the deals are there to be had on used 4x12 cabinets. And again, if you really want to put your research in, you don't just have to stick to V30 loaded or T75 loaded cabs. Like, you will be able to find a plethora of cabs with all sorts of different speakers in them. They may take a little longer to track down, but you should be able to find yourself a good deal in really no less than a month. I can almost guarantee it. And those aren't even the only resources. Those are just the ones that I use the most: Facebook Marketplace and Guitar Center if you need it shipped to you. So with that being said, guys, that is it for my little argument today. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. If you actually watched this video all the way till the end, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate it, and I hope this video helps you. Just for fun, if you did watch this video till the end, put a poop emoji in the comments, mainly just because I want to see how many people put poop emojis in the comments, because I am apparently 8 years old. And if you guys have any other ideas that you want me to touch on the channel of ways to save money when buying gear, or ways to basically be able to acquire your dream gear rig without breaking the bank, anything that kind of pertains to those topics, let me know down below in the comments, because I'm happy to make these videos. I'm happy to help you guys any way I can. I've been buying and selling for a really long time, and I think that I've kind of got things down pat on how to find the best deals and basically obtain awesome gear for well under market prices. So that's gonna do it for me today, guys. If you would like to support the channel, down below in the description of this video are my affiliate links with both Sweetwater and Zounds. They support the channel, and you guys support the channel also by using those affiliate links and shopping with them, and it actually costs you nothing extra. So anyone who uses those links, I greatly appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. I definitely said neck time. It's neck time, baby! You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.